start the class, okay. All right, I think today the reading class, the first day for the reading class is the four establishments of mindfulness. But in order to save my time and also the pronunciations, for the pronunciation's sake, it's much easier to say the four foundations of mindfulness. Anyway, there's so many different translations there, but maybe mostly I will use FEM, okay? So that's easier because, four mean F stand for four, E stand for establishment, or FFM. But it's not very nice to say FFM. So FEM. So that refer to the text name, or not necessarily the text name. Is refer to the four foundation of mindfulness. 就是四念处. Okay. Anyway, so just that's first thing. Anyway, now after last time after finishing this Sarvastivada Abhidhamma, especially the text is called as Abhidhamma Avatara, and I'm sure that most of you, especially those who have followed the Abhidhamma class, would find this text much easier to read. Okay. This is why sometimes it's good that when you have a time, you learn something very difficult, and you know every word, but you don't know what they talk about. And after a certain time of training, so then when you read any text again, it doesn't mean that you know everything, but at least you find, oh, this is much easier. So I like to know first, before we start the class, I would like to say how I still not very sure how we can do a better way of reading the text. And from the poster, I just wrote actually for the poster, I just wrote this introductory, like why when we begin a class. In my mind, I'm thinking that so we are doing a comparative study of the different texts. Certainly since the text come from what we call the Agama, an earlier text, then you have two versions. One is in Chinese, and then one is in the Pali. So then we will do the comparative study of the two first. And then in between, when we are talking in class, when we are reading the text, and then certainly, we started to point out, I think the main thing, the good thing is that we read it the way that we just like on the way we can discuss. But then also, first we read the Chinese text first, and then after we read the Pali text, okay? And maybe in between, while we're reading, we would start to say about the two differences, but you don't have to really pay too much attention on the differences at the moment. And after when we finish the text, this is what we call actually in a scholarly study, is what we call the comparative study. It's also more or less actually teaching you how to do a research in a way, okay? Like the way that when university, that's how we train. When you read a Buddhist text, if you find that there has any parallel text there, or what we call these counterpart versions of the text in any languages, you have to really do the comparative study first. That's the minimal thing you need to do. But to do the comparative study is not enough actually itself, because it actually that's just only the basic tool you do. After comparing, and then you might have lots of questions. Why it's different? Or sometimes even why it's the same, okay? Why they relate the same thing, or why they relate a different thing. And in that time, during that time, of course, especially if you are doing the research from a master course, and you are not only learning the teachings, the meanings, or the implications, and so on, or even the history background, but you also have to learn, especially in the master course, and then you have to learn even the language, certainly, why the language is using this word and not using the other. Sometimes maybe we will talk about this, and I think it's a good way for people to understand why, if possible, always try to read the original sources. When I say original means, we may not be able to find the first original, but anything that means the most ancient one, that might be, it's much more reliable. That's in a general sense. Of course, it's not all the time, But for scholar study, after all this comparative study, like comparing the two texts, like the Pali version and the Chinese, maybe different version even in Chinese, and then you will come up with some idea. Now, when we begin with the class, I'm sure you know. And then I'm planning to do so far, we finish the two texts first, and then we can go on look at how the commentary really look at it. Okay, that is a big job, much more bigger job. How the commentary actually really look at the text, and also we started to find how other tradition, even like Yogacara Bhumi, 就是一切四谛论, okay, and also including that maybe Lin Xiuhui suggested maybe even like 智义法师 and one of the 10-time masters, he had also written basically a treatise about this the four foundations of mindfulness and so and so. So how all these traditions actually also understanding these four foundations of mindfulness, FEM, okay? And then, so firstly, we just read the text. And certainly while we're reading, we maybe discuss something. But in other words, firstly, we get familiar with what the content of the text first, okay? And also, besides this, if you really are interested in just precisely or solely to the teachings of the four foundations of mindfulness, and then you might be also interested to read this Samyukta Nikaya, okay, or Sutra Agama in Chinese. So the Sutra Agama is Za'ahan, and then in the path, the Varga of the path, path, and then they have one of the collection is called the foundation of mindfulness collections. Okay, that also I think that even though you don't have to read those things, because the problem why I want to say that, of course, if you're interested, you have to begin to read those texts. But then when we discuss that, we will come along with that. But because why? Later you will know why. But now I don't want to explain too much because otherwise you get confused now. You will find, but I'll give you one other answer. The reason is because the more you read, the more you start to understand what does the sutra actually been composed. You might not necessarily know the whole answer or the definite answer, but you get some idea. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just start to begin with the book. Okay, and then we begin with the Chinese one. Okay. I like to begin with the Chinese one because we best to begin something you're not familiar than you're familiar. I'm talking in terms of Chinese, in terms of English, because we're speaking English now. Okay, so if I'm started to start the class in speaking in Chinese, I would suggest that we begin with the Pali version. But since we conduct the class in English, so and then the best to read it through the Chinese version. But of course, I don't think you read Chinese, so we are reading my translation. I just looked through today only. Actually, after when I done this translation, I never really bothered to look at it again. But I still find there's something need to be changed, you know. But anyway, that's also one good way that we got to read the text again, right? So if there's a page on the book, the page 4, right? You see there's a number 98 because the collection of the text is almost like it's the Buddhist text is the way of Buddhist text collecting is very different from or people might be here familiar with the Bible, for example, or even Quran, for example. Nobody familiar with Quran here anyway. So but the Buddhist text basically collected in like if that text are in a middle length course, what we call the middle length discourse, because the length of the text is not the Buddhist text. The discourses are not very long and are not very short, and then they will put it on one of the in Pali we say one of the basket. That's why we call it kaya. But in the Chinese we say that you put it on one string. Okay, agama actually also can mean a string. Like you have the pearl, right? Or you have any jewel. Then you just use a string to connect it together, right? So you arrange it, or it's the same size of the pearls, for example, you put it one string and make a necklace, right? So agam actually original means something like a string, okay? String also, okay? But of course, Agama, later on the word Agama in Chinese called Ahan, it means the holy text. Okay, it becomes a meaning of the holy text. Sometimes it can also conversely used as a term like Agama and Sutra and 这个经. Okay, but of course the word Sutra is much more clearer because the word Sutra it means string. Okay, it means thread, a kind of thread. Okay, but Agama is almost like a collection of the thing that through the string. All right. So number 98 is because the text is being collected as the long middle discourse. In other words, when you say middle discourse, means it's not too long, it's not too short, in terms of the length of the text, and then it been arranged on number 98. Okay. So the name is called Nianchu Jing. Okay. So I translate the discourse on the foundation of mindfulness. Sometimes, perhaps a better translation, the discourse on the establishment of mindfulness. I need to say that later, I would explain later why I translate foundation, but rather than establishment. I'm going to explain a little bit later. Okay. And then when you look, if those people who read Chinese, of course you can see the comparator because I do one side Chinese, one side English. Okay, and then you see that it is the second discourse of the chapter on the cause. Okay, so these texts actually it been arranged under a heading. Okay, like under one of the heading. The heading is called the cause. 所以中阿含音品 is belong to the cause, the chapter of the cause. Okay. So, and then in the Madhyama Agama that's what I mentioned. Madhyama Agama means the Agama is mean Ahan. Okay, or you can understand as a holy text, kind of like. So it's like in the middle. Madhyama means the middle. Okay, it's because why it says middle. It's not too short. It's not too long. Okay, if the text is too long, they put it in called the long discourse. Okay. It's been arranged in other book called the long discourse. If it's very short, and then you arrange in other what we call this. Sometimes we in English how to translate already I forgot. We translate as like a connected, been arranged. The short text all arranged together. Just in Chinese, that's what we call the za'ahan. Okay. So and that reside on the second day in the small earthen city. Okay, in other words, mean according to the tradition. So of course, this text been recited by the monk. Even I forgot the name already. But anyway, I didn't bother to talk about this. But I will check that later. So I just want to say that the text actually in original when the text been passed down. So it said that the text is reside in the second day in a place called a small earthen city. Okay, that's just a record of the authenticity of the text, how being kept. Okay, how is the text being kept down originally? Okay, right. Now, first word is, thus I have heard. Well, okay, I'm sure that lots of people here they know. That's how you begin with the text. Mean all the time in the Buddhist text. So the story is very easier. Thus I have heard. The I refer to who? Hello? Of course not me, right? Not does Dhammadeva have heard, no. The I is referred to who have heard about this. Yeah, somebody said Ananda. Why? Who is Ananda?
His assistant.
Yeah, attendant of the Buddha. And someone say some more. Besides,
He's a cousin too.
yeah, he's a cousin to the Buddha.
He's younger than the Buddha.
Yeah, he's younger than the Buddha. That's
Anything
good.
else?
Anything else? Yeah, about Ananda. Anyone? Just, yeah, input information.
He remembers everything.
Yeah, it's said that he is the best. When he heard something, he will never forget. It's not like me and not like some of you. You know? And anything? What anything now know about Ananda?
It seems like always Ananda is always referred to Ananda as often in the suttas, Ananda is always asking a question. It's often Ananda Buddha having a conversation usually.
Okay, the Ananda often asking a
He kind of represents
questions.
kind of a common person, kind of asking questions, or the monks. So
but
that seems the
yeah, you could say that often you could see Ananda asking questions also. Yeah, Alex, you want to say something?
He wasn't enlightened.
he became after his death.
Okay, no, that's a good question. No, it's not that he wasn't enlightened, depending on how to define enlightened. So he attended Sri Manta, but he couldn't able to attend the Arahant.
Yeah.
So he attended Arahantship only after when the Buddha, deceased, parinirvana, I mean the Buddha passed away. So he attended the Arahantship after the Buddha passed away. How long?
It was the meeting, right? What was the first meeting that he had to be an Arahant to go attend? I don't know how long that took.
100 days.
How long? Anyone? Okay, that's a good point. At least we know that he attended Arahantship after the Buddha passed away. But it was a time before or after the first council. First council means the monks are supposed to gather together, and then they have to. Let me just explain what is a first council. First council means, when the Buddha passed away and they want to keep what the Buddha said, so they agree that then they will stay together, and then they will just discuss what is the main thing that need to be, record. But those say there's no recording, so record in your mind. So you need to arrange it and then keep in the mind, and then they have to all remember by heart. Still stay there for remembering the text by heart, and then some may be mostly in charge of a certain part, some may be mostly in charge of other part, but their duty is to remember them basically, and then they have to pass down to the students. Okay, this is why we have the Buddhist text now. Okay, but I still ask the question: how long after he passed away from the Buddha?
3 months after.
The first rain retreat after Buddha passed away.
Yeah, the first rain retreat, and then that's the first rain retreat. So it was roughly how long the Buddha passed away, and then the first rain retreat take place.
4 months.
3 months.
Hmm?
3 months.
I'm asking this question. Sometimes it doesn't mean that I really know the answer. Okay.
Nobody knows the answer.
No. Actually, I think we could find the answer. It's just because I think I somehow read it or somewhere there were discussion about that, but I just forget. But it's good to raise a question, because sometimes when you read, you need to think. Okay, we know that when the Buddha passed away, and then there's a ceremony being waited. Okay, I think it's about at least the body was kept at least for a week or two, I think. And then the Buddha's the body being cremated. Okay, cremated, is been cremated. And then the 8 kings comes, but actually after cremation, so one of the king wanted to take all the Buddha's relic. Who's king? This is good history. Okay, no one know. Give you a question. Next time, do homework. Okay. So one king wanted to take the relics, and then of course, and then that comes up a dispute, because the other thing that one king cannot just take all the relics, so you should share. So at the end, so the dispute being solved, and then the relic will be delivered. Actually, that's an important thing, because after the Buddha's relic been delivered, so they were actually one of the country persons, they came to take the Buddha relic, but however when they came, it was late, right? Even though we have actually eight kings, or no, I wouldn't say 8 kings, 8 groups of people takes all the relics, but usually we say 10 because there are 2. One is that the one who in charge of collecting all these things, there's a kind of how to pronounce it? Urns. The urns, the Brahmin, one of the Brahmin, he is doing all this job, so he has the urns. So that also been erected as a stupa. So that's 9. The number 10 one is that because one of the kingdom, they came late, and then they have no chance to share all this the relic. But the only agreement get is that whatever left on the pile, the ashes, So he took all the ashes. And then he also built a stupa for the ashes. Okay, so basically, even though we say developed into the 8 kings, 8 places, but then actually all 10 because one is take the earth, one is take the ashes. Okay, all right. So after the dispute gone, and then they would who actually was presiding the first council? Anyone? Okay, good. Mahakassapa. Okay.
How come there's no statue in the Chinese monastery of Mahakassapa? I was very shocked.
I don't know why we have the statue of Mahakassapa though.
Like he's one of the most important disciples.
No, it's actually Mahakassapa.
I wonder why you don't have a statue.
No, maybe best to say this. Mahakassapa actually, if you look at the whole Buddhist history, not necessarily everybody agree with what the Mahakassapa do. Okay.
Controversial.
You translate.
Huh?
You translate.
Huh?
Why?
No, it's not like dislike him as such a strong way, but it's like he
was too strict.
Yeah, he was too strict, and he's you could say that in a way is too conservative. You could say that. So, because you could see this very clear even in the Bali commentary when we discuss about this, and it's very clear that it looks like Mahakassapa and Ananda, because Ananda didn't attend the arahantship at the time when they decided to have the first council, right? And then actually it was Mahakassapa firstly would refuse Ananda to participate for the first council. And of course, not only that, in the history also said, Mahakassapa kind of like also say there are few things that Ananda didn't do it fair enough for the Buddha, right?
Really?
Yeah. So, and, but of course, it looks very clear that the Pali commentary trying to make this situation light, I would say. So, and he would say, you cannot say that, I remember when I learned Pali in those days when I read this, and he say, you cannot say that the Mahakassapa is not a good friend of Ananda. He is a good friend of Ananda. You know, sometimes when the more you say, the more ye miao ye hei in Chinese, okay? He is a good friend of Ananda because, you know, look, when he was in any other place, he say, oh, my dear friend, how are you doing, you know? So he is, but you know, I mean, usually in a commentary, don't want to write so much thing, right? So basically, if you want to write that, they know that the a long history already, people kind of know the tension between Mahakassapa and Ananda. Anyway, all right. So that might be one question for you, answers for you. I mean, not necessarily at all the tradition will agree. Actually, especially the nuns, of course, because actually one of the impeachment basically been posed by the Mahakassapa to Ananda was no, why you support the woman to be a nun, right? And of course Ananda defending say that I didn't support the woman to be a nun. It was actually the Buddha agreed to have ordained a nun, but then the Mahakassapa say, if you were not the one who are really, you know, pushing the Buddha, the Buddha
was correct.
They would not. The Buddha would not agree to have the non-ordination. You know. Anyway.
What about your compassion and loving kindness to Mahakassapa?
Now you don't want to put a Mahakassapa statue now, right?
I think that you always need. No. I still do think you should put a statue. I'm gonna request and sign a petition. Because you always need, I think, the conservative view. What happens is people start questioning and having a dialogue, and I think it's important to have that dialogue and come in middle way. And I don't think it's either extreme. So I think everybody can learn from this sort of situation. You know,
No, I know. No, I just want to say, unless of course you want to put all the statue, but if you, I'm not talking about what I'm saying in general. Yeah, in Sri Lanka actually some temple they put Moggallana and Mahakassapa beside the Buddha. Not Moggallana, sorry, the Sariputra and the Mahakassapa beside sometimes they do that also.
Because I think it was a big responsibility for you to tell.
Even in Chinese, I need to say that in Chinese also, you do find that some Chinese in ancient time, they also put a statue of Mahakassapa. Now I want to say this further. Why? This is my suspicions. This is my conjecture. Conjecture that why the Chinese want to put the Mahakassapa. Because of course there were few things. One, that the Chinese really care about how the lineage been passed down. Okay. So Mahakassapa actually represents the first person that got the lineage from the Buddha. Now, I don't know why we talk about Mahakassapa so much. But anyway, let me try to finish it for a few things.
Well, it's interesting Buddhist history.
So yeah, it's the lineage is passed out because actually when the Buddha, in earlier time, the Buddha used to wear the robe with like the rug robe, basically mean you have to shoe it, like it looks a little rough, right? And then there was a first lay person, lady are much considerate with that perspective. If the man usually fine, give you the food to eat is enough. But and then they think, now we are so many people who study Buddhism now, and the Buddha, then he requests the Buddha, can the Buddha accept if we make a fine, the good material, robe, and then offer to the Buddha? Because now the situation is different now. Not necessarily the monk have to take their time to go out to look for the corpse, and then took all the clothes and wash it. That took a long time because you have the blood stain and all sorts. So you have to be wash it and dye it and then sew it and do all sort of things. And also actually it's not about just going the place, the corpse to get the clothes, the robes, the clothes. It's also about sometimes you had to fight for that too, right? Because almost like it's sometimes you had to wait until the people go away. And then you need to get the when the body was abandoned, really abandoned, like that, right? Anyway, so anyone knows that who was the first lady who offered the robe to the Buddha?
Buddha's mom
No.
offered him a sweater, I remember.
I didn't know there's sweater. I don't know whether Buddha wears sweater.
Something like that.
I forgot her name.
Anyone know the name of who was the first lady who offered the robe to the Buddha, the new robe? No?
She was a rich lady, but I forgot.
I even forgot the name actually. But I know her other name. Because her original name is Vasanta. I think it's called, no. But I know her nickname. Nickname means, that's how the people call her. Called Midra Gama Mata. It means the mother of the deer park. Okay. So anyway, she is one of the most important actually lady in the Buddhism history, because she not only because she came from a very rich family and renowned family, and then she also become the what they call this the noble person as a street mentor in her very early age. When she was a teenager, she became the street mentors because of her father. The parents actually are devout Buddhist. And then she became the street mentor when she was an early age. Of course, then she been arranged marriage, in those society, and the marriage was also another very renowned, family. And then she was also famous, not because of her beauty and her power. There's a saying that she was so powerful that even the elephant would not touch her, I don't know whether it's referred to a physical size or her. But I don't think so with physical size, because in India still there's a stereotype of how a beautiful Indian woman should be very lean, I guess so, but I don't think it's referred to physical size. But that shows her she's very powerful in her meditation maybe. Anyway, and then another thing that she's become a very important model for few things. One thing is that because she one day, in those days when her father-in-law, is it called father-in-law? Yeah, father-in-law, would not agree because her father-in-law believed in other religion called the Jainism, right? So, and that called a naked school because they don't wear anything. Even still in India, you'll find this kind of practitioner, ascetics. So they belong to the school, 就耆那教 in Chinese is Jain. So and then Jain, yeah. And then this Jain monk also come for asking the food, and then her father-in-law asked her to go to offer the food. But anyway, when she was delighted to offer the food for people who are really want to practice, no matter what religion. But she didn't expect they were naked, right? And then she went off the food and she saw a lot of naked people stand on the front door. She feel really abashed, abashed, and then she just left. And then her father-in-law think that she was discriminate against his belief, right? So that's how they have a fight. In old Indian society, when they have this kind of fighting, the women have to be obey. But she disobeyed. She said, I didn't do anything wrong. She said, how could a religion can be not considerate when, even though you wanted to practice as a naked, but you have to remember there's a woman in the world. This is what her argument is about. So, and that's why she left. And then she left and returned to this her parents' place. You have to think about in those days society. That's really something I don't think about. That's the reason why I said she was very famous. It's kind of like become a model of the Buddhist women, thinking such a powerful women. When they fight the father-in-law was wrong, she could really stand up and say something. And anyway, that's one thing. And the second, of course, she also offered a place to the Buddha. That's where is a deer park. And then in Wisely, okay. So that's the reason. Actually, in Wisely, the country, they have 3 of the big monastery. So one is offered by her. She's so rich. Another incident is that and she, I think. Oh, actually, why she want to offer the place, I remember, is because when she went to the temple, when you see the Buddha, and she left her most precious scarf. Okay, the Indian scarf is not very short, a long one, and all sort of thing. And then when she returned home, discovered that her mate didn't bring back her scarf. So, and then anyway, the next day she went back to the temple. Ananda kept that scarf. And then Ananda wanted to return to her. She said, no, I couldn't do that. Because anything left in the temple is mean I offer to the temple. But then Ananda said, I couldn't take this scarf. We are not using this kind of thing, right? She said, that's true. That's actually is very expensive and precious. And she's very powerful. So she said, okay, in that way, maybe why don't I do this? I just like option, like nowadays what we call, is it what do you call? My pronunciation is wrong. Just
Auction?
No, option.
Sell it?
To sell it, like
To auction.
auction, not auction. Like this worth how many. Yeah. Anyway, she raised the money and a lot of money she raised, and that's why she built another place for the Buddha. Okay, that's okay. The third thing is that the important, as I said, that, and then she asked the Buddha whether I can make the robe for you, because we now, as your disciples, and then we can afford to make a cloth for you. That means the robes for you. So, and the Buddha agreed. That's why she made the yellow, of course, use the best material. The best material to make the yellow cloth to the Buddha. That's the reason why still now in tradition, especially in a certain country, like I know in the Pali or Theravada tradition, no, you don't wear really yellow color.
But it's more orange or saffron.
Yeah, you wear that saffron, I know, but you don't wear yellow, because they still at the tradition thing. Only the Buddha wear the yellow.
Oh, ooh, like the emperor, Chinese emperor.
Okay. Anyway, but after that, so the Buddha wear the robe, and then he has the other robe. So and he asked, at that time, Kassapa was there. So he asked Kassapa, so whether you want to exchange, no, Kassapa was very delighted. Before, Kassapa was very delighted to see the Buddha and saw the Buddha robe was really like worn out so much, something like that. And then the Kassapa said, why don't we change the robe, teacher? So I give, my robe gave it to you, you gave it to me. Anyway, that actually, I don't know how, that's how we know the story. But, and that's since then passed out, this idea of the Buddha will pass down the robe. Okay. All right, now last thing I want to say before I forget about the Mahakassapa. Otherwise, we won't go to the text anymore. So you ask the question. You are the one who...
No, I think it makes it more personal, yeah.
Anyway, Mahakassapa, why is still the statue is important in China? Because as I say, one thing is still believe that the Buddha passed down his robe to him. And then that's one thing. Second is because still, it's almost like there's no record about the Mahakassapa pass away, okay?
Really?
So it's still the Chinese believe that there's he's still alive. Yeah, he's still alive. No, he's still alive. He's still alive. Of course, not the way that we think that he's still alive. And then in the Chinese way of still saying that, but that not in the Pali system. But Pali never mentioned about him anymore. We don't know where he passed away and so and so. But the Chinese say that he actually had to wait the next Buddha come down, and then he will hand over the robe, what he had got from the Buddha, to the future Buddha, mean the Maitri Buddha. So that's why if the school who are really care about this lineage, of course, to keep this Mahakassapa statue is very important. But it's a kind of reminding that the lineage is is there, right? Okay, you get it now?
Yeah.
So, where we are now?
The four foundations of life.
No, back to the question. The question is that, anyway, I think after about actually a month, okay? After actually about a month, and then the Buddha passed away. So, and then they decided to have the Buddhist council, the first council, and then,
When was it? A month later, the first council?
what do you mean, when was it?
You said the first council was held a month after.
Definitely the first council was run, the first council was run, for sure, definitely it was from the July, if it in the July to the October. So, and then, so that's why, so from the Chinese way, from the Pali way of believing that, that's how they count that. It's a very complicated study, okay, but just say in general. Because, so you see, when in the Pali we believe that the Buddha passed away on May, right, the full moon day of the May. But the Chinese record is on the Chinese calendar as in April, the 8th of April, okay. But I guess somehow maybe similar to that kind of time, if you believe the Buddha passed away at that particular date. So, and then after the month, let's say the May, the June, right? July, full moon day, they will start to have this rainy retreat. Because in India, during that time, it rain all the time. Now this, from July up to October is monsoon time. So, and then it rains all the time. That's why they have rain retreat. So the council will start on the July. In other words, then you can see, you more or less know that if it before the July 15th of July, that means the full moon day of the July, then the Ananda will attend his arahantship on 15th of July. Okay. You know the story? No?
No.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So basically, Ananda was doing walking meditation. He was not very happy in a way. Before, he was not very happy because I said that before, the Mahakassapa as almost like a leader, and he was a very senior monk because he's still alive, and he's senior and he's still alive. And and everybody agreed that he has to be almost like it won't say the leader, it's like, okay, the one who in charge of everything, right?
The head of the council.
the head of the council. So and then he is the head of the council. He was the one actually disagree with Ananda should join in. The reason why Ananda is not Arahant. Everybody should join in. There were more than 500 Arahants. 500 is just a number, but I won't believe it really exactly 500, but definitely means more than few hundred. Okay, so for more than, that's how the old language will expressing something. When you say 500, it means more than few hundred. When you say 1,000, means more than 500, something like that, right? So that's a way to count the numbers. So and then but Ananda was not included. But anyway, people still persuade him and whatever. So but he according to the party said that at least the Marcus was agree. Fine, we can allow him. But even though he agreed, but Ananda was not still happy because he knew that. I'm talking all these sources only from Pali because Chinese doesn't mention this much. Right? So and then the Ananda was not. Still, even though he was agreed to join the council, he knew that he's still been questionable because he's not Arahant. He wasn't Arahant. That's why then he keep on practice. It was said that at the midnight, he was just doing walking meditation. So if you want to attend Arahantship, or you have to wake up at midnight, okay? I'm just joking. So, and he was doing the walking meditation, and then he felt really tired. And then I think almost like he just needed a little nap. I guess it's about, because I remember, before the dawn is you guess maybe about 3 o'clock or no, something like that. So because in India the dawn times almost sometimes depending on the time is mostly come by 4 before 5 o'clock. Sometimes it could be 5 o'clock, something like that, or a little later, little 5 o'clock. So he just wanted to lie down at the time. It's the most famous story that his head before hitting on the pillow, his leg hitting on the ground right that moment. So he attend Arahantship. Okay. So next time you try to maintain that posture.
Just let go.
And then
Just letting go. Let go.
and then you say, I want to attend Arahantship, and maintain this posture. The leg and the head is not on the ground. Anyway, so okay, that's sorry. So basically, of course, I like to say something important is that of course during the first council, Ananda been appointed as the one. Even though the way they say that he's the one who recite, he's not the one who recite the text. He's the one because according to Pali system said, and say the council is like this. And then who is the one who take care of the, almost like the presiding the recitation. So the president presiding the recitation, and will be sit a prepared seat, right? Say that is here. So and then Ananda will sit here, for example, and then the senior monk will sit beside, and then the other monk, all the monks sitting there, and then they will discuss the text that they know is important, and then they would start to discuss and they agree that okay, this is important. Let repeat again. Everybody repeat what that monk said. Maybe they do some collection or what, I don't know. So, but generally that's how we understand. And then whether you agree or not agree, sometimes it can have a dispute, right? I mean, you can imagine that. I mean, not surprised like, no, I don't think that should be kept, because all have to keep in the memory. Or sometimes they say, no, I don't think this is important. But you have somebody to say, no, yes, do it or not doing it. Or whether it's true or not, whether the Buddha did say such a thing or not.
So he was a head editor.
So he's a head. So Ananda was a head, okay? Maybe that's much easier to understand it rather than, because the people think that the text, when you say the thus I have heard, I refer to Ananda, people have still the belief that means that Ananda say I heard all the time. It was wrong, okay? It's just a format to say this text is kind of like being approved by me, okay? But approved is not a very nice thing that I have heard this. I mean, because the heard doesn't necessarily refer to he heard directly from the Buddha. He is here, he's listened to the text, and he agreed with it by everybody. I also heard about this. Okay, Ananda as authority. Okay, now before we move on to reading the text, I still want to say one thing. Why he been selected as the one, not because he have a good memory, not because he is an attendant of the Buddha, but why he been selected as a president for presiding this collection of the Buddhist text. Not the Vinaya, okay, only the Buddhist text. the sutra, the suttas.
She knew them all.
No, it's not necessarily. That's why.
Mosque, he knew lots.
No, that's true. That's why I want to raise the question is actually Ananda become the attendant of Buddha after the Sakyamuni attended Buddhahood for how long? You see all this history. Huh? Yep. 25 years. So in other words, you could say if he just be attendant of the Buddha 25 years, doesn't mean he didn't hear the Buddha spoke before, but clear that he would not able to hear all the texts, 25 years ago, right? Especially when the Buddha attained enlightenment right after, under the Bodhi tree and so on. So if you understand that means that I heard it, even then it doesn't register that system. Okay, that system basically is kind of I approve this and I heard about it, I got it, I heard it. Okay, all right. Okay, if you want to hear more story, we'll talk later. Okay, thus I have heard on one occasion, so the Buddha was living in the Kuru country at the town of the Kuru's name Kamasadama. Okay, it's just a town name. And we'll learn more about the town, but not now, okay? Because I don't want to talk too much story now. So when we look about our commentary, then we are going to look more. But now just know, but I just want to say firstly, on one occasion, okay, someday you can translate, at that time, the Buddha was living in the Kuru country. Kuru country is nowadays in Delhi, in Indian Delhi, around Delhi, New Delhi, Okay. So actually, yeah, it's maybe best to say the old Delhi, not the New Delhi, okay? Around the old Delhi. So at that time, it means that this famous text actually is agreed. This famous text has been taught actually in Delhi, okay? And there's another famous text has been taught in that area also. Anyone know? It's very famous in Pali, but it's not in Chinese audience. But for people who no, the one that the Buddha say, you don't have to believe in and what the doctrine say, what the people say, Kalama Sutra. That also been said in the same place. Okay, you don't have to just only believe because that's what the teacher, he's your teacher, because that's what the doctrine say and so on, And then you have to be true practice and so on and so on. Yeah, the Kalama Sutra. Jalama吧. Jalam, this is just translation. Yeah, Jalam. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think I don't want to put too much research discussion now because on one occasion also can be understood different way. Okay, but anyway, so just leave that alone at the moment. So at that time, the blessed one, of course, the blessed one is Bhagava. Okay, the word Bhagava. Actually, no, Bhagava, even though if a Hindu, they also call those Hindu teachers like Bhagava because it's a very common term. But literally Bhagava, of course, the word is, I think, put it more freely or more general, Bhagava means that someone is very lucky, someone who is lucky, and especially from the Hindu perspective, okay. Anyway, at that time, the blessed one, this is how we translate the blessed one. So, the blessed one is big. Why is lucky? Because in Hindu context, the God look after the guru, right? He's almost like a god, right? That's why he's lucky, okay? Anyway, at that time, the blessed one, the Bhagava, told the monk, so bhikkhus, or you could say the bhikkhus, okay? There is one path for purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrows and fear, for the eliminating suffering and distress, for the abandoning lamentations and weeping, and for obtaining the true Dhamma. Okay, all right. So this is interesting here. He say there's one path. Depends on how you like to translate. But actually, I know that when I translate one path. But I can maybe translate as no. I myself would much prefer as there is one unified path. Let me just talk about the terminology.
Well, there's so many translations about that.
一道. You see, In Chinese, one, the Dao, one path, okay, or one marga, okay. But you know, because we'll talk that more and more, because this is we first have get familiar with the text first. The word 'A 克亚诺, okay, but in other Chinese translation, like in the Agotala, like 这个政治部真牙行, so they use other is that 一称 one
Conversion point, point of confluence, unification.
yeah. So actually 'A 克亚诺, so you also understand the word is from 'A 克 one plus ayano, okay. Ayano actually, you can understand as a path, or you can understand as one direction, okay, one direction. So that's why it become Egayano. So sometimes you can even translate this in Chinese 一向. Okay, that's one direction. Okay, but then because the word sometimes is interesting, some people take it as also one yana, mean one vehicle. There's no any other, there's only one.
One direct.
Because they understand the term eka yana as eka yana, almost like eka yana, the big eka aya, it shouldn't be eka yana. Sorry, no no. So the ya is a long vowel. It means the long, anyway, one of the vehicle, which of course is not favorable nowadays. Okay, okay. We will discuss this more a little bit. Anyway, we have to understand that, but in the commentary, if, as I say, I translate one path because it's less controversial, especially unless I really have to write many things. But I prefer one unified, okay, because it's in the modern context, understand the word Egayano, especially there was a lot of scholar research from the old Indian language, the Vedic, and then the word Egayano can be actually from the old time. This term, if it's used, it always refer to because of so many things scattered around, and then you put all the things into one system. That's called Egayano. Get it now?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yep. Integrated path.
Yeah, like an integrated path. There is integrated path. You know, because the Buddha sometimes teach to meditate on this way, to meditate on that, to meditate on this to be enlightenment, to meditate on that to be enlightenment. Now, he is almost like, this is my preference on it. So when you look at the text, it's almost like the Buddha trying to say, there is the integrated path that will lead you to be out of the suffering. Okay.
It's like a noble path.
No, the path definitely, the path definitely is the acre. Okay, since you mentioned it, I also like to say, the path is in the, if it's the Pali commentary, when you say acre, mean the one, he say the one here has to be understood as the concentration of the mind. Okay, that represents the samadhi, the samadhi, the concentration. The ayano, is mean because ayano, if you learn the Pali language or Sanskrit, they have many terms like marga, ayano, and then and there are several terms. It means the same thing, like so like Dao, Lu, and it means the same thing. But ayano refer to, like you say, the Noble Eightfold Path. So that's the commentary, the Pali commentary explain it. Okay. That means that here the ega here means the concentration mind. The path refer to is the wisdom part. One is the samadhi part, meaning the concentration part. One is referred to wisdom part. That is the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay. But in terms of meaning, you have to understand it mean you could understand as like an integrity of the path. Okay.
I'm surprised that you haven't mentioned as well that the Madhyagama, this comes from the Sarvastivada school, doesn't it? The Jewish Chinese particular translation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because we did the Sarvastivada.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, there's one path for the purification of beings. You know, that means depends on how you like to understand the one path. But in a commentary, it can be mean that there's only one, there's no two. You cannot say out of it, there's only one, the only one, okay? This is how sometimes people, especially in Pali tradition, when they teach meditation, that's the most famous phrase they used, okay? And they say, if there's only one, there's no any other. So that's the most common. And this is how why generally when the people who are only learning the teachings through the practice, especially in meditation center, you know, because due to the emphasis, right? And then they only take that meaning and they only think that is the only meaning. But actually commentary giving 5. So the second meaning by the commentary is not suggesting that it could stand for the single way, the only way. But it's also, the second meaning is a way to be undertaken alone. That is the way that has to be undertaken alone, okay? So, and then the third explanation is a way leading to one goal of nirvana. The one here refer that the goal will be only one to the nirvana goal, to nirvana, okay? Get it now? And then the fourth explanation means a way, because it's why it's a one, because it's only been taught by the one, who? The Buddha, okay? And then the fifth way to say, and then why it say is the one way, the one path, because it's a way only found only in Buddhism, but it's not in other, you know, heresy or other religions, okay? So anyway, so the one, it depends on how you like to explain it, okay? But if the commentary say this way, sometimes when you have enumerate so many kind of explanation, I think this is my conjecture is that it refers to actually it must be controversial also how you interpret one way. Okay. All right. So that's the one way for purification of beings. Okay. Or you could say the one way, the one path. The way is mean that the only way by the Buddha. Or you could say that is the only way, no any other way. Or you could say it's a unification way. All right, get it now? You could say that this way doesn't share by other religion, but only in Buddhism. Okay. Okay, and all this is a way that is that, but the person alone only had to go through it. So, I know those are the meaning. So there's one path for the purification of beings. So and not only just purification of beings. So that's why I'm doing a translation, right? The translation called Jing Zhongshen, means the beings who have been purified. And the second is also for the surmounting of the sorrow and fear. Okay, to the Chinese translation, mean you wei. So you will be overcome, surmounting or overcome the sorrow and fear. And also for that way is also for the eliminating suffering and distress. You know, and then not only that. So let me see, what is that for? Purification being surmounting the sorrow and fear, eliminating suffering and distress, and abandoning lamentation and weeping. It means you will not cry, you know, so sad that you cry, and for obtaining the true Dhamma. Okay, so that's the 得正法, that is obtaining the true Dhamma. Okay, but of course obtaining the true Dhamma you don't find in Pali. Okay, but anyway, so but obtaining the true Dhamma. So what are these? Namely, what is that? So that's the reason why I say it's good to translate as a unified or integrated path. Because here they say, namely the four foundation or the four establishment of mindfulness. Okay. I think I should give you a little break. Again, when you come back for the break, if you have a question, you may ask a question. Okay. We first just go through it first, and then we will discuss more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Okay. 怎么还好吧？
这几个字儿怎么读？
你说
就是没有这些是中文字，这些地址，居楼寿，建模色坛是吧？
係壇居樓都一
建模色坛，
坛居楼都
那个第几节气啊？大概几节有多久的时间？
坛模建模。
我忘了，我没有算。我记得他在结夏的时候讨论，然后多住了几个月。所以如果他从那个时候结夏开始，一直接机到他多住几，至少有，因为他们有多住，而且他们有分批哦。有的先回去有事情再回来，他们有分批。至少巴黎站记载得非常清楚，就怎么。那个住宿，我大概应该有5、6个月，但是有的还会留下来，不知道做什么，那就不知道。对，那有的就比较确定，他们就把他带走了，就回他这些地方去，继续把他就有一个责任嘛，回家教他的学生，叫他们背起来，这样。Yes，
杨哥师傅好。您说这个念住经是大念住经吗？是一个经吗？
不是，这是汉译的，叫念住经。他们有叫大念住经是，不是大念，不是，这是汉译的，这是阿含经里面的。你讲的大念住经呢，是后来从巴黎站把它再翻译成，可能翻译成中文去吧，那个是巴黎站的。巴黎站有2个，一个是放在长部叫大念住经，一个放在中部叫念住经。
那不是一个经吗？
一样，它只是长部的是多放了几个东西，但是要不然就，我现在讲的是巴黎站哦，长部的就是经很长嘛，长部他把它称叫大念住经，然后中部里面的他把它叫念住经，然后这2个呢，其实大概一样，只是长部会多放了几个东西而已，因为它完全一样，就是多放了几个，对，你可能讲的大念住经是巴黎站的。不，那是巴黎站。
是一个经，这样基本上是一样，它是在两个一个长部，一个中部。
对。
然后内容。
中部是长部是多了几个，在反映出多了几个东西而已。
那哪个是更原始的呢？
我们这个没有，这个不可能，我们能理解的。所以我就说我们先不要谈那个哈，先保留一下。不是，我们现在是读汉译的这个，我们在读很多资料，你就知道讨论哪个是原始是。这个方向有一点奇怪，等一下我再慢慢读多，你就会知道为什么这么说。先不要解释这个，因为你们没有读嘛，你要读跟它相关的资料之后，你就知道我们才会。所以我说我们做这个有一个目的，有点像研究，也有一点读经的意义这样。
一个很傻的问题 ，very simple question。您刚刚说的一个长部，一个中部，从巴黎上来说，这2个是哪个先出？
如果从那个题材来看，当然是中部比较早，对。从题材的那个，因为我们只能从那个一个，你从一个文学的角度来看嘛，它这个题材，它的格式，那么应该照流是，但是只是我们的诠释而已的啊。从题材来看，应该是这样。这只能这么答，这不是绝对，我们也不知道。我们那个
从国外认过来。
他们为什么会来的？
不晓得，他 email 给我嘛。
好。
我叫他们来上课。
好。我们那个文凭的东西，你还没有弄出来，谁怎么样，那些怎么样，还没有讨论。
要吗？
阿比达摩克要啊，他们说要啊。
谁说的？他们要？是
吧
？OK， 我要去算出来。
总是要给对啊，就算出来啊，对啊，弄一下吧，
那个这次那个 poster 是谁弄的？
不好，对不对
？Oh my god！
是啊。
你们错了一塌糊涂。
是啊，我都说啊，
连
不好。
那个柱子都错了。
对啊。
那没关系，我已经。
你反正再跟他讲，就是跟他讲什么东西要改过来就好了。
我要跟他讲 ，OK。他会不会不高兴？
不是啊，你就跟他讲那柱子错的东西，跟他讲就好了，说要改的是什么？
还有很多东西要改。
对啊，
我上一次10天每天都改，改得我简直。 OK，我们跟他联络。
注意，
哦，这个是谁的？
刚才他要给那个不对，就是
对，但是他有名字吗？
那个个体的小那
不，你要跟他拿名字，我要写收条给他，那些他有没有在里面？
不好意思啊，那叫什么？那个Jolina 那个是叫什么名字？那个个子矮矮那女生叫你要给我们一个名字，因为我们要写在那个上面。
什么东西啊？
但都在里面哈。到时候我下个星期再拿收条给你好。
什么东西啊？
没有这个 walk 的那个 hungry 那个。
哦，朱碧玲啊。
哦，
我们知道他的名字啊。
没有，他说他有在里面有就好了。对我只是。
他已经进去了是吧？
啊，
他每年都有捐嘛。
没关系，那我就找你的名字写，还是写谁的名字？
他说都在里
面。
我的意思是，你的收条要我开给每个人吗？啊，我一定要开个收据的。
全家，你是全家的嘛？
对，那你要我怎么看？我只是收据给一个人啊。
20块而已一个。
不是，我总是要开收据。因为我做我这个东西。
你过来一下嘛。
你懂我的意思吗？
我知道。
你
当然知道啊。
不是名字我全部会跟你翻身，但是我的收据一定要开给一个人。
对，那你跟
我一定要开收据，我不开收据等一下。
当然要开收据给你，不开什么？
等一下你还说我。
可是我的钱只有20块啊。
对啊。
这些
不是，我就是只是收据，因为他们也不会要收据嘛。我只是我的收据上我要开给谁。
哦，这样子啊。
就写你好了。
好啊。
就那只是一个，因为我作业，因为要不然我收这钱，你写你的名字，你先写你的名字下来好了。你打一个勾，好，那我就写，懂我意思吗？好，这样。
我改的是他已经最后是弄错，那你要我怎么讲
可以了吗？要敲钟了。你叫。
叮叮叮叮叮。
这没有声音，你那肯定有声音。
Shall we back to class? Shall we back to class? 10 minutes has passed.
Okay. Anyone have question first so far?
So, yes, can you say how important this, it seems like this is kind of a core Theravada text. Would you say how important it is in terms of the, because it seems like other schools seems to think that this is kind of one of the core texts of Theravada.
I won't say how important it is because this is really, it's all, it's a matter of the person's opinions, right? But I want to say this. I said that before, I like to understand this as the translation integration path, right? Because, and also you have to understand, my understanding, this text, when the Buddha preached about this, it's not really after the Buddha enlightenment, right after enlightenment. So it's actually, it seemingly that text, it's actually after the Buddha get enlightenment, at least more than almost like 20 years, maybe even 30 years, right? So, and then in order to have a detailed study about this, so whether, it doesn't mean that, but of course still spoken by the Buddha, so it's very important. But whether you can consider that this is the only one, that to be like the most like the king of the
No, I'm saying not the one only, but one of the core texts that makes up the whole.
Yeah, it's said that that's why this is, we just said that, that's the reason why this text is important, because it's almost like integrate path, right? So in a way, so it become a system kind of like this system being taught in a more like a more sophisticated system. So or I would say more sophisticated or more integrated system there, unified system. But I know that sometimes some people like to explain that is the but if you take it like the only one, right? So then that would be much more weight on the text, like wow, even much more important. That's nothing to do with not important. It's just only. I don't want to say my personal opinion. As I say, that when we read the text, we must understand it's how you understand the one path here. But it's clear that if the one path, whether it's important, but the path have the duty that this path or this kind of the practice system actually could purify the being, sum out in the sorrow, eliminate the suffering, and abandon lamentation, and obtaining the true Dharma. So I think that's the important message here already. Okay. But if I want to talk, there's a lot of story to say. Actually, even the revival of Sri Lanka Buddhism also highly influenced by this text also. These texts become, in history, of course, they have a really big impact to Buddhist history. Yeah, okay. But sometimes you know that when you have a big impact, it's not necessarily serve as the equal, because when it have a big impact, they actually maybe have many other important texts not being treated fairly also, right? Sometimes it can be. That's what I want to just. It can be. You don't know. Yes.
So we pay attention to like the version, like the Pali version is much closer to the Buddha's time, and the Chinese version is much later. I mean, when they translate.
Yeah. Okay. If you look at the translation history, it's true because the Pali text is passed down to Sri Lanka before Jesus Christ, almost 300 years ago. So, if you look at the history, it definitely very convincing to believe that the Pali text can highly probable retain the earlier version of the Buddhist text. Okay, but then you don't forget also, actually during the time, that's also have a deep study about Pali text. And during the time, did the Pali text also change? Okay, you have to put that into consideration. That's one thing. And the second, now even though the Chinese, that one now we start to learn Chinese, read the Chinese first, and then we are going to read, after this, read the Pali one. But the Chinese one, this we're reading now, even though it's been translated into the 5th century, that means 426, if I remember not wrong, into Chinese. From what language we don't know. But certainly we know this is also belong to one of the school, which is not like a Pali Buddhism school called Vibhajavada, right? The analytical school, 分别说不 in Chinese, mean Vibhajavada. But that school is belong to Sarasvativada school, the Soichoyobu, the school. Okay. However, but sometimes you cannot say because that been translated into Chinese 426 or about 5th century is older, because the version maybe, the earlier version maybe, it could be even maybe the same time of the Pali. If you believe the Pali version came down to Sri Lanka was before Christ, about 200-300 years. And then maybe the version that they translate into Chinese, let's say the language of what we call the Prakrit, mean the mix a kind of, or Mekotanis, or something like a mixed language of the Sanskrit or the dialect of the Sanskrit. Maybe then that translate into the Chinese, but it can be even very old one also, right? We don't know. Unless now we able to, because we cannot locate that now, so we don't know. But, so that's why, to argue with that, you can only presume Pali should be earlier because the text been passed by their earlier time. Okay, we can only presume that, but that is not the definite answer. Okay. Okay. Okay, all right, let's keep on reading it. So now the next one actually, this is, you don't find it in Pali, okay? But this is why I want to say, when you read the text, more and more you find interesting. The next paragraph, the next one is about the past, the past Buddha and the future Buddha. Even though it doesn't have that in the Pali, but in the Pali Samyukta, Pali, the connected discourse about this what you call about this, the FEM. Okay, you know what is FEM now. About the FEM, they also have the same passage. Okay, you could say that the Pali put that passage away because he want to put it other place. Or you could say that because the Chinese, when they, before they do the translation, that what language we don't know. We only can say Chinese now, so they put the passage into here. Okay, you get it now, right? So that's why I said the more you study, you know it's sometimes it's not going contradictory to each other. Okay. Okay, that one they say the past, the Tathagata. You know what is the Tathagata, right? According to the earlier Buddhism, the Tathagata just means somebody who comes here and then who are actually as such way he learned the teachings. Okay, it's not necessarily as the Prajaparamita Upadesha explanation, 就是那个叫什么大智度论 because the Chinese usually based on the 大智度论 explanation of what is meant by 如来. Okay, but we have to understand in early Buddhism, they don't have the concept of 无所依来亦无所去. There's no such a thing called coming and going called the Tathagata. So actually the Lu means suchness, means because the someone who really knows the such thing, the suchness, it means the Noble Eightfold Path, the 37 factors of enlightenment, the really such thing of the Dhamma, the teachings. Okay, that's called Lu Lai. And sometimes understand as like the dependent arising as well. Okay. So the past, the Tathagata, Arahants, you know, the Arahant in general meaning means somebody, is a title now. Here, refer to the Buddha, the second title, Arahants, mean refer to somebody cut off the reincarnation. No more reincarnation. Refer to reincarnation as the one that reborn again to suffer again. To cut off that kind of suffering again. Okay? Reborn and suffering again. And then the perfect enlightened one. Okay, the perfectly enlightened one is referred to somebody not only just because he got enlightenment, but he can be enlightenment but without the teacher's guidance, which is really rare in the world, in the universe. Okay. So in other words, you see, somebody who have know what is really exactly the teaching is about, the true thing, the suchness, the Tathagata, somebody who cut off all these worries, reincarnation that make them to be suffer again, and someone that who can be enlightened without the teachers, okay, and had completely destroyed the 5 hindrances. Now he talked about that, and this is something it doesn't go against any other. Say that it has to cut off the 5 hindrances. Anyone here can tell me what are these 5 hindrances? In English, yeah, Tan. The last, first one is the lust and craving. The hindrances that had the lust and craving. The second ones, anger or hostility, okay, or ill will, we can say. The third one,
it's the sloth and torpor, restless and worry, and sloth and torpor and doubt.
No, the third one usually we say the agitation, the restlessness, and then regret. Okay, and then the fourth one. No, the fifth one is a doubt. The fourth one?
Sloth.
Yeah, the sloth, or you could say sleepiness and drowsiness. Okay. So even the past, the Buddha, who have those qualified, not only kind of reincarnation as Arahant, but also is the Tathagata, who know everything so well. And then also can be attained enlightenment by himself without teachers, had completely destroyed the 5 hindrances, defilements of the mind and weakness of the wisdom. Destroy the defilements of the mind. I think if you learn those who have attained Abhidhamma, you maybe have more lists in your head now. What are these defilements? But we can put that away a little bit. At least you know there's something called defilements. Okay, and the weakenings of the wisdom. Okay, establish the mind dwelling properly on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Not that they will cut off all those things, but they will establish. That's why I said the establishment is a better translation. The mind dwelling properly on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. cultivate the 7 factors of enlightenment, and had awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. Okay. All right. I just, for the sake of interest, the reason why the word actually satipatthana, okay, the word, because the word patthana, in Pali, when you say sati mean the mindfulness, patthana mean you lay down something, you establish something. So that's why the word is being understood in the Pali is very well. You translate as the establishment, and which is actually sound better, for the translation's sake. But if you look at the Sanskrit word is smriti upasthana. The word upasthana doesn't have actually the meaning of establish. Upasthana is more have the place of the meaning of you make a ground. You make ground on something. Okay, that's why like a foundation. You make the base. That's the reason why both translation is fine. But I mean nowadays we more prefer establishment, because establishment have a meaning or mean you can lay down the foundation again and again and again, right? You can establish it again and again. But if you say that you have the foundation, it's almost like that's it, it's done. Then, but that doesn't apply to really the good meaning of it. But that's had to do. I want to say that had to do with the language also, because if you based on the Pali word patthana, it means established. But if you based on the Sanskrit word upasthana, but the word is very clear. It's very hard to understand as established, but it more can understand only you lay the foundation, So okay. It's all right. That's a translation thing. Okay. Let me see where we are now. Okay. He said that we have established the mind, because I translate here 立心真住一四念处. It's not easy. So I just can understand establish the mind, dwelling properly on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, cultivated the 7 factors of enlightenment. We are going to talk about what are these, okay? They are, in other words, mean if you have a 7 factors of enlightenment, only when you have 7 factors of enlightenment, you can attain the sainthood, okay? Without that, you are still far beyond, anyway. So and then we are going to talk that maybe more in the future. So and had awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. Okay. So, in other words, he just want to say even the past Buddha, okay, who have those qualities, so they also have to destroy those things, and also have to cultivate those things. Okay. Any question? You don't. Sometimes when you learn something, you don't have to remember the detail at the moment. Just know, it. Just want to say it's important that even the past Buddha has to destroy something. At least you have to remember one thing. Don't say I don't even remember one. And then also have to be established something. And what are these? At least you have to remember one. Okay. So okay. So. And then the future Buddha did the same thing, so I don't need to read it. Okay, so and even actually, the present Tathagata, I mean the Buddha. Okay, the Buddha, of course he's past now, but so that referred to that time. The present Tathagata Arahant, perfect enlightened one, who also destroyed the 5 hindrances. In other words, I mean then we have the understanding the destroy of 5 hindrances is very important to attain the fully enlightenment. The enlightenment and defilement, destroy defilements of the mind, and also destroy the even very weak wisdom. Okay. So has established the mind dwelling properly, and not only that, they will establish the mind stay properly on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Get it now? So even the Buddha, anybody, not only destroy all those things, which is bad thing, I could say, but also must be able to establish the mind all the time, stay with the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Get it now? And then also and with that, it will cultivate the 7 factors of enlightenment and then has awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. So, in other words, you could say simple version, or maybe in a corrupted English, it means you need to establish the mind that always stay with the 4 foundations of mindfulness and always have the 7 factors of enlightenment and always stay with the wisdom that call the perfect wisdom. Okay. No question now, right? Shall we read a little bit more before we go? So just read up to here at least. What are the 4? Because you have to let your mind establish your mind on that. What are these 4? The 4 FEM, that is the contemplating the body with regard to the body. This is a big topic, but so far we just read first, okay? Likewise, the foundation of mindfulness, that is contemplating the feeling with regard to the feelings, the mind, the Dharma with regard to Dharmas, okay? This is my translation, okay? So in Chinese, you have to contemplate the body as such a way as while you're contemplating your body, maybe. Get it now? It means actually with regard to the body, there are lots of explanation in commentary. Forget that at the moment, okay? Say the simple version first. Everything learn from the simple version first and see whether you agree with the commentary and so on. I don't mean you don't agree, I mean like whether you want to adopt the commentary explanation all the time or not. That's another thing. But it's clear, it means that you have to contemplate the body, no any other thing but just the body. Get it now? Hello? Mm-hmm. So that it means that. With regard to the body, mean you don't say, I contemplate the body and then contemplate the mind. What are you talking about? So you have established the mindfulness that you are contemplate the body, exactly the body, okay? And then when you contemplate the mind, exactly the mind. Contemplate the feeling, exactly the feeling. Contemplate the Dharma, exactly in the feeling, the Dharma. So you don't know the content first, but at least you know. Basically means you contemplate the body. We translate with regard to. It's in other words mean not any other thing but just really the body.
Mix it up.
Yeah, kind of like no, don't mix it up. It's very clear. Okay. So okay, so we have it's almost time, but we can still have questions. If you have 1 or 2 questions, we can read that next. I think next time we can finish at least finishing the whole what mean by contemplate the body with regard to the breath maybe, because it's the Chinese version is different from the Pali a little bit. Yes. Hello.
When we do a walking meditation and we say contemplate the body,
yeah,
it's really just a focus of the action of the walking itself.
Yeah, you see, you look at if you read the page 6, 1.2. I have a bracket here 1.2. That is say that. You see, again, a monk contemplate the body with regards to body. A monk is fully aware of going out and returning, well observed and discerning. He is fully aware of bending and stretching, stooping and rising. He's serene and order, blah, 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 right? Yes. So that is still belong to the contemplating of the body with regard to the body.
So contemplation here, so satipatthana is 2 practices, right? It's both kind of a meditation practice as well as the right now I'm aware that I'm speaking, I'm aware how my body is, I'm aware of the body.
No, I think you're asking too loose question now. Can we just back to the text
but contemplation
maybe?
Though, what do you mean by contemplation?
No, it's just my translation here actually the mean the word yeah, it means actually if you look at the Pali word anupassati, it means that you are seeing it continuously. If it very, very rough or very direct translation, literal translation, anupassati means anu means keep on, right? Passati means see. You keep on seeing it. So that's it. But then in English, you say keep on seeing it, the people, that's translation thing. But no. So we only translate as contemplate. Or sometimes if you like, you can translate as...
He often says ardently.
No. Ardently is another word.
Tapa, I know, but But he's saying often it seems like contemplation. I was kind of always very confused about contemplation, meaning also this is just being aware, mindful of daily activities, plus also when you use it as a meditative subject, also being.
No. You don't confuse. If in original language, there's no confusion with that term.
But it would be a maintained contemplation. It's almost like a constant contemplation of the.
Yeah, you could translate good way saying that Anupasati as the contemplation, the word you could translate as a constant contemplation or constant or no awareness, because sometimes the problem awareness we translate from the word sati. So mean the nian. The awareness sometimes we translate the nian in Chinese. So maybe the constant contemplation, constant observation.
Because this has to lead to vipassana, basically.
Maybe I should write down. I think constant. Can you just lend me a pen? Constant observation maybe is also can be thinkable. Okay. I maybe just we'll fix a time to do that maybe next time. So anyway, this is all translation, as I say, because I just mentioned already. Even the word like one path. So one path that just say that that's one path that will lead you to be out of the suffering, not a cut of the lamentation, and have to attend to true dharma. Right? In the earlier passage say that. Even I could just translate there is a unified path. So because what is the unified path? That the four foundations of mindfulness, namely the four foundations of mindfulness, right? So, but as I say, that's the reason why when you read the text, if you are possible, learn the original language, you find lots of interesting things. But if you don't, at least now this is why they serve the class purpose. Don't expect me to give you one answer, okay? It's not possible. And actually, it's not possible. Only that if that's possible. No, if that's only possible when you ask the Buddha, okay?
But also the contemplation, my understanding is that has to lead to vipassana, right? The wisdom. Is that's the reason we
don't forget in the text here didn't say the vipassana yet, and
but I'm saying that's the point of contemplation.
No. Actually
you contemplate to lead vipassana because that's
no. You don't use the vipassana word. Actually, this is some suspicion say that in the most earlier time the Buddha don't talk about vipassana and samadhi. There's no you don't have to really distinctly different the two. Now the interesting part is here. It's not that a Buddha disagree to distinct the two. It's actually that maybe show that sometimes the Buddha allow the distinguish of the two, that there's a vipassana and samatha. Sometimes they don't allow. Looks like that could be one of possibility. And why? Because if you think that there's something called vipassana and samadhi, you might be restricted something that I practice this, I don't practice that. I practice that, I don't practice this. Right? This is why I say when we read the text here also it's important, don't jump in those. That's why I say.
I think it's both ways. I mean,
no.
It's all integrated, as you say. You have to look at it that way, but also you have to look at it as one.
No, I didn't say that you don't look at which way. I just say we should be careful about that. I don't mind you read anything but I'm just saying that when you read the text first, try to read anything is only related to the text first. And then you will have a even much more clearer and independent. No. That's your hunch. A hunch.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear because I found it difficulty in terms of difference between contemplation, recollection.
No, you caught up with that also, right? Don't know.
It's just different things. So I was kind of trying to figure it out.
Actually, those are well discussed in the Visuddhimagga also. If you have a confusion, look back to the path of purification. Yeah, you didn't study that. Look at that. They do have a clear definition there. Yes. Yes.
I would like to ask you with this paragraph that is related to meditation.
Yes.
So we can meditate in walking, sleeping.
Yeah, actually he want to say that if you follow the whole system to meditate, and then of course that system is which is comprising only focus on body, right? But the body here said it very clearly, when you are doing any action well is also one. And then also when you're able to know the breath is also another one, And this is all related to the body. And then something related to the feelings, something related to the mind, something related to the actually the teachings. And then if you can all this integrate into one, and you keep on practice, and then someone will become the saint. That means, yeah, it's all meditation, of course.
Including sleeping.
Huh?
I think
Including sleeping.
her question.
Yeah, including you have to know you're sleeping when you fall asleep. When you're about to wake up, you know you're about to wake up. Because when your mindfulness, the sati, actually there's a satima or in Pali word, mean when your mindfulness or becomes so good, and then your observation becomes so strong. Do you get it now? Okay, the so-called constant observation. All right. That when your mindfulness becomes very good, and then your constant observation becomes very clear, that even when you wake up, you know you want to wake up. I mean, for people who attend a retreat, they know that. They have that experience. Of course, once they finish retreat, they they sleep like a pig, you know. You do that. When you wake up, you know, oh, now it's the time I need to wake up. And then you know you wake up. Okay, wake up. Then you wake up. Actually, it's true. This is because your mindfulness established. When your mindfulness established, then you will be able to raise this mindfulness. But still, when you have mindfulness, you still have to learn to mindful of what? You cannot be mindful of computer games, right? You know what I mean? So that's why, and nowadays, you know, it's a very popular topic nowadays. They say people teach mindfulness for how to do the stock market and let the people earn money. Yeah. And so the Buddhist ethic have a lots of discussion. Yeah, teaching mindfulness to soldier how to shoot well, you know. Yeah, yes. So this one is just say that mindfulness have to learn. It's placed on what? On the body. And the body, I have many things there. So, and this is why they start to discuss. And we are not only discussing, we are going to discuss this Chinese version, and then we'll discuss the Pali version. And then also we will discuss how other tradition or even some other places have the same subject, how they understand. So then you have a much more, I would say, big scale and much more rich information. This is what we expect in the class. Anyway, thanks for coming for the class. Yeah, yeah, we do the transfer marriage, and then we will end the class. Thank you so much. Yeah.
May we transfer this merit to all the sentient beings, may they be well and happy, eventually attain Nibbana.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Right, thank you.
One bow to teacher.
All right, thank you. Sure. And by the way, and I think because we sent out this the poster very late, but at least you can inform them that we have this class, okay? And then if you have a question, ask Angelina. And also, if you have a question, please send the question to Angelina. They can pass out to me. You know, that would be good. That then I can also know what you want to know, because I don't necessarily know everybody what they want to know. Okay.
Online group, like
yeah.
group where